to the big. For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to my continued coverage of the 2023 NFL Scouting Combine. Day one in the books. So the NFL switched it up. I'm actually glad that they did. Not necessarily because of the positions. Normally, if you recall, offense goes first. Normally, you get the offensive line and running backs on day number one. Day two is usually the big day. That's day two is usually the big day because they pushed it back a day because the combine, if you recall, once upon a time used to end on Monday. So now it's over on Sunday. I think they did that like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But day one is usually offensive line and running backs. Day two is usually wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends. You get the skill guys. Then you go over to the defensive side. You get the linebackers and the edge rushers and the defensive linemen, defensive tackles. And then on the last day, you usually get DBs. But they flipped the script. This year, offense is going last, okay? Defense heads up the beginning of the combine. And we started off with the defensive line, edge rushers, and linebackers, off-the-ball linebackers. And it was a kind of a funky mix this year. Usually they do a better job of separating off-the-ball linebackers with guys that probably won't be playing off-the-ball linebacker at the next level, but it is what it is. So we got a mixture of those guys. We got edge rushers, and then we got the defensive linemen and defensive tackles in particular. And this was a really athletic group, and we talked about the edge rushers, this being a very deep edge rushing class. And it seems like every year we're talking about edge rushers that are just getting better and better, more athletically gifted, more skilled coming into the league, which means you can have an impact right away. The defensive tackles, I don't think this is a particularly dynamic group per se. You get a lot of girth and big guys in this draft class. Obviously, the main name, Jalen Carter, wasn't going to participate on the field regardless, but then you had the news, and it's funny because everyone was talking all of this shit. Todd McShay was one of the first people to say, hey, Jalen Carter, unbelievable talent, probably the best player overall in this draft, but you've got some off-the-field issues to vet. And everybody jumped down his throat. I mean, people were coming at Todd McShay sideways, front, back, side to side. Never let Todd McShay or anybody from ESPN ride. And he took it on the chin. He didn't say anything because he had sources that had him plugged in, and he knew what was coming down the pipeline. But he didn't say anything. He took it on the chin, and eventually he was vindicated when the news came out yesterday that we heard about the death of the Georgia player and a staffer about a month and a half ago, and we didn't know any of the backstory behind it. Now what has come to light is that they were racing. Jalen Carter in one car and the unfortunate death that occurred in the other vehicle, those two were racing. And so he was charged with a couple of misdemeanors, got bailed out, was released on bond, $4,000, went right back to Indy. Obviously, the tenor of those interviews changed. Okay, he might have had a few interviews before being served and having an arrest warrant out for him. So he goes, turns himself in, and then comes back to Indy after bailing out. Obviously, those interviews probably changed and did a full 180. Anyway, he was not on the field participating. Wasn't going to even before that. He was going to be available to the media. Obviously, that didn't happen. But outside of him, this isn't a real dynamic class per se. But we're going to start with Group 1, which was the defensive tackles. There were some solid guys in here, but nobody really stuck out other than two guys. And generally, I try to find 5 guys in each group that I thought were standouts on the day. Excuse me. in this particular group, I really wasn't blown away by any of these guys, to be honest with you, outside of two players that I thought caught my attention. Brian Breezy from, or Brzee, excuse me, from Clemson. Brian Brzee, who I remember watching him maybe 2-3 years ago at Clemson and thinking, damn, this guy's really good. Obviously, he had the ACL tear, I think, in 2021. Bounced back this year. Wasn't, and I've always been of the mindset that when a guy has major knee surgery or an Achilles, whatever the case may be, you got to give them a full year to recover before you start to judge them and expect them to go back to what they once were. So I wasn't expecting the Brian Brzee of 2020, who I thought was dominant. I was expecting him to be, a lesser version of that, but nonetheless, I thought he looked phenomenal today. 6'5.5", 298, ran a 4.86, which is just phenomenal for a guy 6'5", 300 pounds. And I thought he looked good on the field. I thought he looked more like the guy that I thought could be a dominant force. And he was the number one rated high school player in his class when he signed on with Clemson. And he looked a lot more like that on the field today than he did at any point in the 2022 season. So that's good news for him, that he's starting to get back to where he once was. Dealt with a lot of issues. They kind of chronicled all of that during the telecast. They got hurt pneumonia. He had some kind of, I think something with his kidney. I don't know. I don't want to make up stuff. It was a lot, though. I was like, damn. And then his sister passed away, so it was just, he had a lot going on. You want to talk about overcoming adversity. But he looked good today. And Zach Pickens out of South Carolina, 6'4", 291, ran a 4.89 40. But honestly, with the defensive linemen, I don't get too hung up in the 40 times. Those are great. It's not going to be often you're going to be asking a 300-pound man or a 290-pound man to be running in a straight line 40 yards. It happens. It's not unreasonable to think that, you retrace your steps, they throw a screen, you're hustling, you can run 40 yards down the field, but it's not going to be very often. So I thought Zach Pickens was outstanding. Thought he, as you can see, ran well. The 1.74 10-second split is a good time there. The Brzee 1.71, that's the ideal time. The average of the 5 best players, or the top 10 players in the league at that position, 1.72 on the 10-second split. So I thought Zach Pickens had himself a really good day. Movement-wise, looked explosive, changed directions well. That'll be a guy that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. He was already a really good prospect heading into the combine. I thought he might have elevated his stock just a bit with his performance as well. So Collegiate Cansey was a guy that turned heads with his 40 time. He didn't do anything on the field, but at 6'1", 281, ran a 4.67. A lot of people compare him to Aaron Donald, obviously the size, but also he went to Pitt. And it's funny because Washington's GM, Martin Mayhew, said the biggest mistake he's made in the draft was disregarding Aaron Donald and just assuming he was too small. So I think a guy like Collegiate Cansey is going to get the benefit of the doubt if his tape, which a lot of people feel like his tape is dynamic and it gives them some Aaron Donald type vibes. If his tape, the production warrants that kind of attention, I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt instead of what Aaron Donald faced, right? Going with 13th overall or whatever it was. So obviously he's not going to go that high in the draft, but normally you see a 6'1", 280-pound defensive tackle, he's not going until day 3. But if this guy's is a legit and explosive and dynamic, which this 4.67 40 suggests, then Absolutely. Aaron Donald ran a 4.63, so he's not that far off. And a lot of people thought he was going to, be roughly 6 feet. He's 6'1", so that helps his case just a tad bit. That's somebody to keep an eye on. I can't wait to get to his tape to see what exactly the fuss is about. But those were the two guys that stood out: Brian Brzee out of Clemson and Zach Pickens out of South Carolina. We go to group number 2, and this was more so your edge rushers. And I didn't understand why Anderson Jr. wasn't with this group. I just was perplexed. I just assumed that Will Anderson would have been with this group. I was looking for Miles Murphy. Maybe I should have known beforehand he wasn't going to participate here. But, and again, I've talked about this, and that's going to be a trend moving forward. A lot of guys just gonna, to me, like, I don't do winners and losers of the combine anymore, because I've done this for long enough now to know that there are no losers in the combine. You can go out. There was a guy from Michigan, Mike Morris. He had an awful day. He's falling down all over the place. There were a couple of drills he had to do multiple times because he just effed it up. Who cares? Go to your pro day, have a nice day. Your tape speaks for itself. You're going to be fine. Like, the combine, to me, is a way to enhance your draft stock. And I've always said, if you don't kill it here, there's always your pro day. My problem with those people that skip the combine is, if you don't kill it at your pro day, you're screwed. There is no other opportunity unless you want to go out and hold a private workout to prove to teams that you can do it. But take advantage of this. This is, to me, a do-over. If you kill it, you don't have to do it again. Will Anderson ran the 40 one time. He didn't run it a second time, and he's never going to run another 40 in his life. Come out, knock it out of the box. If you kill it, you kill it. If you don't like your time, guess what? You run it at your pro day, and you'll get 17 different times. You pick the best one and say, hey, that's my 40, right? Who cares? So I don't do winners and losers at the combine anymore, because if you come out and you compete, you've already won. Now, can you separate yourself? Can you take your stock? You were a 3rd-round pick projected. Can you make that a fringe 2nd-round pick now? Right? Can you elevate your stock at all? You were borderline 3rd, maybe early 4th-round pick. Can you be a solid, solidified 3rd-round pick, maybe even a late 2nd? Can we get from day 3 up into day number 2? That's what the combine can afford you. You don't kill it there, go to your pro day and knock it out of the box. So anyway, I got off track. I thought Will Anderson Jr. would be with group 2. And for whatever reason, he was with the linebackers in group 3. I don't understand that. And even Daniel Jeremiah said, I would really like to know what the reasoning behind him being with the linebackers, the off-the-ball linebackers, what the purpose of that was for. And maybe the group was too big and they needed to take a couple of guys out. I don't know. He would have been better suited with his kind, because not that he was a fish out of water with that other group, but you want to compare apples to apples. That wasn't fair to him. But nonetheless, group 2, I thought had some really freaky athletes in it. And this is what you're going to get. These edges, they come into the league, they get more faster and faster, more athletic. Sure, some of them are light, but it's crazy because some of these guys are huge. And in this particular draft class, you're getting traditional base 4-3 defensive end types that in certain cases, like Tyree Wilson, have the ability to stand up, right, and move around. But these guys are 270s, 275, 280. Like, these are some big. Miles Murphy is 275. Tyree Wilson is 275, 270, 275. Double A out of Northwestern. Guys, 282 pounds. He was one of my premier performers in group 2. And that's what we'll start with Double A out of Northwestern, 6'2", 282, ran a 4.49 40, 10.5 on the broad, and 37.5 on the vert. I thought his on the field work might have been the best of anybody on the day. There was some really clean linebacker work on the field, but he's right up there. He was clearly the best of any of the defensive linemen, tackles or edge rushers. I was so impressed with him. And again, I don't know what the tape looks like, but for me, for most people, the combine is just cross-referencing. All right, you already have watched tape. What you saw on tape, you just want to be able to either confirm, or maybe they force you to go back and take another look if they were a little bit more dynamic than what you saw on tape. For me, the combine is usually an awakening. Like, oh, who is this guy? You know, if I don't get to anybody, I'm going to make sure I get to this guy because I was impressed when I saw him at the combine. He's one of those guys that I don't know if I would have made it to him, had he not been on display at the combine, but he was, and he was phenomenal today. I thought he was exceptional, and I was thoroughly impressed with his movement skills at 282 pounds. Robert Beal Jr. out of Georgia, 6'4", 247. I mean, I probably sound like a broken record. The Georgia Bulldogs seem to dominate. They're the new Penn State. There was a stretch there of probably like 3-4 years where every Penn State guy that came out was the best conditioned athletes in the draft. They ran fast. They tested well. They killed it on the bench. They jumped higher. They jumped further. They ran faster than everybody else. Now Georgia's kind of taking over that role. And the difference is Penn State wasn't winning national championships. They just had a great, strength and training program that produced, the guys that we've seen over the years, Saquon Barkley and Odafe Owe, guys like that, right? Well, now Georgia is that program. We saw what they produced last year, the number 1 overall pick in Trayvon Walker. They had the 2 defensive tackles. Wyatt went in the first round, and then Jordan Davis, who blew the combine to shreds last year. The year before that, they had the 2 corners that got drafted. Tyson Campbell and the other one that went to Green Bay. So I think Jacksonville and Green Bay was where those 2 went, if I'm not mistaken. So Georgia continues to kill the draft in the combine. And here we go again. They also had Quay Walker go in the first round last year at Georgia. Nakobe Dean probably would have gone in the first round had he not had the injury, and he fell to the 3rd round. So Robert Beal Jr. just carries on that tradition, 6'4", 247, ran a 4.48. I thought he looked smooth on the field all day. Just another guy that you throw in the mix and say, it's Georgia, man. What are you going to do? So thought he looked good. Yaya Diaby out of Louisville, 6'3", 263, ran a 4.5, 140. More importantly, that 1.56 10-second split off the charts. He was explosive in his movements. Every single drill that I saw him in, I just kept saying, damn, he's been impressive. And he just kept stacking good drill on top of good drill, clean movements, explosiveness. He's the kind of guy that probably, I haven't watched him, but if I had to guess, rough around the edges, but has everything you need, all the ingredients that you're looking for. If you can coach, he'll probably be a guy that you can coach up and have him be, a really solid player. Love to know what he actually did at Louisville, but I was impressed with him in his on-the-field work. The athleticism on full display speaks for itself with these numbers, and thought he had a really strong day in group number 2. And I thought, though, the second guy that Double A to me jumped off the screen. He was number one. The second guy was Jose Ramirez out of Eastern Michigan, 6'2", 242, ran a 4.840, which I think that probably ended up being faster. That was an unofficial 4.8. And I bet you if I go look and find his official time, it's probably 4.7 something. But that's no here nor there. The fact is, his drill work was about as clean as it got. Every drill, I thought he nailed it. There weren't too many missteps, wasn't any slippage, falling down. He looked confident in what he was doing. Some guys, you could tell they were pushing a little harder, trying a little harder, and looked like it just came natural to him. He wasn't fazed by the moment. He wasn't worried about competing against guys from the SEC or the Pac-12 or the Big Ten. He just went out there and said, yeah, I'm from Eastern Michigan. So what? I'm about to come out here and just do what I do. And he looked comfortable. I thought he did some good things, and he jumped off the screen for me. And again, another one of those guys that probably wouldn't have gotten to him, outside of this combine workout. But after seeing that, I at least got to take a peek-see, just to see if there's anything there, because I was impressed with him. Thought he had a strong day in group number 2. And, everyone knows this guy's name. Everybody knows he's going to be a first-round pick. It'll be the second year in a row that Iowa has a first-round pick edge rusher in the draft. Last year, George Karlaftis snuck into the back end of the first round for the Chiefs. This year, wait, Karlaftis was Purdue. Excuse me. Iowa was the Bills taking the kid in the second round a couple of years ago. Not Purdue. Purdue was Karlaftis last year. Anyway, Lucas Von Ness is an interesting guy. I wasn't sure about Lucas Von Ness. Anytime you try to convince me about a Big Ten pass rusher, I'm always skeptical, especially from Purdue or Iowa, right? Because I know, one, he's going to be white, and two, it's the Big Ten, so he's probably going to be, country strong, but probably not going to be the greatest athlete. Like George Karlaftis for me was a try-hard guy. I wasn't really blown away. Now, he had a really solid season, but there's a lot of try-hard sacks, like Ryan Kerrigan, right? Where you just keep fighting and you fall into a couple sacks. They try to run boot action to you. You don't get blocked, and you don't fall for the bootleg. You don't chase the bait down the line, and you're right there and you get a sack on the quarterback. That kind of stuff. You rarely see the dynamic, elite, right now winner out of Purdue or Iowa. So I just said, Lucas Von Ness probably going to fall in that category. And so I wasn't really expecting much. Hadn't watched him really play, so I didn't want to really talk. But, again, I'm human. And there are perceptions out there, especially ones that I've, acquired over years of doing this. However, he dispelled any of that shit because he was a fantastic athlete. Now, a little stiff on some of the drills on the field, but much better athlete than I thought I was going to get at 6'5", 272. I just assumed, okay, George Karlaftis, Ryan Kerrigan type, that's cool. Should be nice. No. What's the kid in Buffalo that came out of AJ Epineza, right? I thought it was going to be one of those types of dudes. Solid, but, not really going to move the needle much. What have you heard from AJ Epineza since he's gotten in the league? Nothing, right? He even slimmed down, did Epineza in Buffalo. That's not what Lucas Van Ness is. He's an athlete, man. I was impressed. Ran a 4.58, but the on the field drills, there were a couple of drills where they asked him to do those conversion drills. You got to drop at a 45-degree angle, shuffle down the line, backpedal, then stick your foot in the ground, plant and drive. I thought he looked clean in those drills. I thought the drills where you got to hit the bag, hit the second bag, turn the corner, I thought he looked a little stiff in those type of drills, but I was impressed with him, movement skill wise. I said, oh, look at this. He might have made a damn fool out of me. So I'm actually excited to watch his tape to see what exactly he has going on. So those were the 5 guys that stood out. Obviously, Nolan Smith of Georgia. Bless me. Didn't do any on-field drills, but ran the 40. And at 6'2", 238, ran a 4.39 40. What was crazy, and they talked about this, every year at the combine, they find a story and they beat it like a horse that's not dead. And so this was their story. This kid, had an injury, came back from the injury, focused on nothing but the 40, wasn't going to do anything on the field at the combine, but wanted to really nail this 40. That's all he'd been working on. He runs a 4.44, a Moses Malone at first, a 4.44, and he's upset. Throws his phone down. He's not running again. He had already told them, I'm done. I was one and done. I gave it what I had, and that's it. If he was really that upset, he would have ran again, but he didn't. So he thought he ran a 4.44. He was probably going to run again at his pro day because he was pissed off. And then he gets the word he ran a 4.39. Now he's excited. He's happy because that's what he had been running right around during his training. And so it's a hell of a time. We've watched this kid at Georgia the last 2 years in particular because the Georgia Bulldogs have been national champions each of the last 2 years. And some of his best work has come on some of the biggest stages. So he's really intriguing. Small guy, 239. All right, so not the biggest guy in the world, 238 actually. But with that kind of explosiveness, there's a place on the field for him. So we'll see where he ends up, and what the rest of the offseason holds for him prior to the draft. And that's a name to watch, Nolan Smith, after having that kind of a run at the combine. That usually gets people talking. So another guy, honorable mention, 2 guys, honorable mention. Will McDonald, the 4th out of Iowa State, did not run the 40. Was actually a little disappointed. Wanted to see what he would run because there's a lot of buzz surrounding this kid. 6'4", 239, another, undersized edge rusher, kind of hybrid tweener type guy. 35-inch arms. Like, there's a lot to like here. Really, flexible, bendy type of guy. Got that Gumby in him. I thought his on the field work was solid. It wasn't great. There was, some slippage, some, him being a little rambunctious out there, feet out in front of his shoulders type of thing, or shoulders out in front of feet rather, that gets you off balance. But I could see the dynamic ability. I could see the explosiveness. I could see the twitchiness in him. He's going to be someone to keep an eye on in this process. And then Byron Young of Tennessee ran a 4.43 is another honorable mention. He's a little stiff to me, a little bit of a stiff guy, but definitely, explosive, definitely has some twitchiness, but he's stiff. So just another name to keep an eye on. That was a really solid group, though. I was impressed with Group 2, these edge rushers, these defensive ends, and the athleticism that these guys brought. Like, that's going to be a good group. And then you got to the Group 3 off the ball linebackers, which they had a little smatter of guys that should have been with Group 2 that were more so defensive ends, but what are you going to do? So obviously you start with Will Anderson Jr., who some think can be the number 1 pick overall in the draft. He's not going to be. To me, the best player in this draft is Jalen Carter out of Georgia. But Will Anderson, and he's growing on me. I'm not the biggest Will Anderson fan because I'm somewhat jaded by all of these Bama guys that have come out who haven't really been all that great as edge rushers. If you're selling me on a Bama linebacker, I'll listen. If you're selling me on a Bama defensive back, which is Nick Saban's specialty, safety or corner, I'll listen. If you're selling me on a Bama defensive tackle, I'm sold. You don't have to do anything else. Those guys usually come in and are worth their weight in gold. It's the edge rushers for me that just don't move the needle. There have been so many of these guys, and every now and again you get a linebacker or two that don't really measure up, from the Alabama Crimson Tide, but it's these edge rushers that have been problematic for me. So in my mind, I can't help but think about guys like Ryan Anderson, and I'm like, and I get it. Ryan Anderson was never projected to be the best player in the draft or anywhere near the top 5. But I just look at him and some of the other guys that just didn't get it done at the NFL level from Bama, and I'm just saying to myself, is he another one of those guys? I don't think so. But am I blown away by him? No, I'm not. But I wouldn't be shocked if he had a stellar NFL career. I wasn't blown away by his work on the field at all. And that's why I said it didn't do him any justice to be out there with the off-the-ball linebackers. What he did today would have looked so much better and more impressive had he done it being measured up against guys that he'll be playing at the same position as, which is, as an edge rusher. He shouldn't have been with these off-the-ball linebackers. But, again, that's nor here nor there. Still ran a 4.6 flat, which is a great time. Even if he was an off-the-ball linebacker, that's a tremendous time. And I'll just think of him as an edge rusher at 6'3", 253, and you go, that's an even better time. The 1.61 10-second split, phenomenal. So, again, I thought he had a solid day, but I wasn't blown away. Jack Campbell out of Iowa was actually really good. And I'm quick to dismiss guys that don't kill it in the 40 sometimes. But what I've learned over the years, and I think this is the thing that I've learned the most out of all the positions, you don't have to be the fastest guy at linebacker. Can't be slow now. Okay? Don't get it twisted. Speed is always welcomed. Okay? But you don't have to be the fastest guy in the world as a linebacker if you have instincts, smarts, and a nose for the football. If you're a student of the game, you know where to be before they, snap the football, you know what's coming, and you can beat them to the punch. Those guys have successful NFL careers. And they didn't run a 4.47. They didn't run a 4.5, 4.55. They ran a 4.68 or they ran a 4.73 and you wouldn't even know it. So I've learned over the years to not underestimate someone because they're not blazing a 4, 5.9 or 4.62 or 4.48 now, as we're starting to see. I remember a time where if a guy ran sub 4.7, he was flying at linebacker. Now a guy runs a 4.65 and you're looking at him sideways, and that's fast. That's still fast. But because of how things have evolved, you look at a guy running the 4.65 and you're like, oh, get that shit out of here, man. That's fast. But with these, tight ends coming into the league that are super athletic, with these running backs and with these receivers and all of this, there's this need for faster. But Campbell ran a 4.65 at 6'5", 250. With the way he did his positional work, he's intriguing. I'll just say that. I'm more intrigued by him now than I was going into this process. So, thought he had a really good day, and I thought he helped himself. The guy that I was the most impressed with at linebacker in Group 3 was Deion Henley out of Washington State. I thought his on-the-field work was as clean of a workout as I may have ever seen at linebacker. And, you get caught up in Trenton Simpson and, all they wanted to talk about was Will Anderson, who really didn't belong with this group to begin with. And so they weren't really focused in on Deion Henley, I don't think, as much as they should have, because I thought he absolutely killed it with the on-the-field work. I mean, the only other guy that I thought had anything even remotely close to him on the field work-wise was Henry To'oTo'o. But I don't really know if anybody had a day that was even close to Deion Henley on the field drill-wise. The 4.63, and that was the unofficial time. That with everybody's unofficial time was slower than their official time. This year seemed like the official times were a lot faster. Normally, it's all over the place. This guy's official time slower, this guy's official time faster. Everybody across the board, official time was faster than their unofficial time. So I think that's probably a 4.59 or something like that, if I had to guess. A 4.6 flat. 4.63 is already fast. So I thought he was phenomenal. Caught the ball well. I thought all of his drops were so clean and fluid. I was impressed, man. Blown away. I was saying, I hope you're around, in the second round. I hope I have a shot, because that's right around where he's going to probably go. I'm like, I hope I got a chance, man. I don't know if we're going to take him. I don't even know if we'll be exploring linebacker at that point, especially if they go after somebody in free agency. They're not going to be drafting a guy that high if they go out and sign a free agent backer. But if they don't, I'm looking at a guy like Deion Henley and I'm saying, hey, there he is. Go ahead and draft him. Same with Henry To'oTo'o. We'll get to him in a little bit. But I thought Deion Henley was outstanding. Owen Papo out of Auburn, 6 foot 225. We're in a 4.39 40. Ay. He was outstanding today as well. I don't know what his stock looked like prior to this, but man, he killed it today. I'd venture to say, and I don't know what his stock was, where he was in anybody's linebacker ranking and overall prospect rankings. I don't know where he was. And I don't know how much stock people put into the combine performance. I just know if you weren't sold on him, or you got to go watch some more of him after what he did today. At a bare minimum, you got to take another look. He was outstanding. Period. Athletically gifted. I thought he tested on the field well. He caught it well. He looked comfortable in just about everything they asked him to do. So, again, another SEC guy killing it. Trenton Simpson out of Clemson, 6'2", 235, ran a 4.43. One of the bigger linebacker names in the draft. He was okay. I wasn't blown away by him. Athletically, I was impressed. Movement skill-wise, though, thought he was all over the place. I didn't think his on-the-field work was all that great. You could tell he was guessing. Even the 40, I thought he was straining. Like, some guys look like it's just natural. You could tell if a guy ran track in high school, or, if it just comes to them naturally. He was straining. Now, he still ran a 4.43, and we know the guy can run. But nothing about what he did today in the 40 or on the field looked natural to me. He looked like a guy that was giving everything he had, which is good. You want that kind of effort, but it didn't look fluid to me. It looked forced. And look, I watched enough Clemson football to know what kind of an athlete and player he is. So I'm not bothered by what I saw today. If you got a chance to draft Trenton Simpson, you do it. So all he did was check a box for me. Athletically, everything that I thought he was, he was. I just didn't think he was as clean as I thought I was expecting him to be, I should say. I was expecting a cleaner performance on the field, and I didn't get it. But athletically, he checked all the boxes. And then there's Henry To'oTo'o out of Alabama, one of my favorite linebackers in this year's draft class, 6'1", 227. I thought he was going to run faster than what he did. I'll just say that first. Now, in saying that, 4.62 isn't anything to scoff at, but I thought he was going to be in the 4.55 range, somewhere in there. When you watch him, he jumps off the tape at you. He's flying around. He's the first guy to the football, 8 times out of 10. And I thought that was going to translate into a faster time. However, what did I just tell you? And they said this on the telecast at least 5 times. And I've learned this over my 12 years roughly, 10 years roughly of doing this. Linebacker is one of those positions where speed isn't everything. Again, it's welcomed. You're not turning speed away. However, you don't have to be the fastest guy to be the first to the football. And they said he's one of the smartest players in this year's draft class. And I've watched enough Bama football to know that this guy's always around football. Always. So, that tells me he's got the smarts. He's been at 2 different programs, and they both had the exact same thing to say about him at both Tennessee and Alabama. Leader, smart football player, a guy that just gets it, tremendous in coverage. And I saw all of that today. So the 4.62, coupled with his coverage ability, coupled with his smarts, and you got yourself one hell of a football player. He was my guy coming into this process. Henley may have overtaken him. Drew Sanders is another guy that I am intrigued by. I really wanted him to run today. So disappointed that he didn't. He said he tweaked a hammy, so he wasn't going to run. I've always said if I didn't plan on running, even if I was hiding, and I don't know if Drew Sanders is hiding or not. Maybe he is. I've always said if you got nothing to hide, then just go out and blaze it at the combine. Fast guys run fast, slow guys run slow. As a wise man once said, it's only a story if the opposite happens. I don't know what Drew Sanders is. I know he's 6'4", 235. I know he looked really good on the field drills, but he didn't run a 40. He said he had a hamstring. Okay, I believe you. If you tell me you got a hammy, you got a hammy. We'll find out what that 40 time is down the road. But again, as long as it's not 4.77, right? If it's 4.64, okay, fine, dude, you're good. He's really good. Drew Sanders is. Former Alabama linebacker, transferred over to Arkansas and killed it for the Razorbacks. You could argue he's the best linebacker, pure linebacker in this draft class. But I want to see how fast he is. But he's another guy that I am intrigued by in this draft. So another guy to keep an eye on as well. So Charlie Thomas out of Georgia Tech, he was intriguing. There's another guy. I don't think I wrote his name down. I saw him in the positional drills, and Daniel Jeremiah just kept talking about this dude from Georgia Tech. I think he's from Georgia Tech. And of the edge rushers, I think Daniel Jeremiah has him as either number 2 or 3. He didn't run a 40, but I think he's like 280. And I watched this dude move, and I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on here? And all DJ kept saying over and over again is, this guy's going to kill it athletically. Former Old Dominion tight end, transferred to Georgia Tech. He moved into the defensive end, started killing it. Still a work in progress, but he's a super uber athlete. And I saw it in his movement skills, So it'll be interesting to see what he does as well. But anyway, that was day number 1 for me. I thought the biggest winners, and I guess it's a relative term, because if you were already highly rated, all you did was come in and check boxes. Deion Henley was already a highly rated linebacker. I think he just came in and checked boxes. Now, he wasn't number 1 for most people, probably wasn't number 2 for most people, maybe not even number 3. So maybe he was able to move up maybe 1 or 2 spots on people's list. I don't know. But Owen Papo is a guy that I thought, I don't know where he was on the radar, but if he wasn't on the radar, he should be. Jose Ramirez out of Eastern Michigan. Don't know if he was on anybody's radar before, but if he wasn't, I think he at least deserves a second look. Yaya Diaby out of Louisville. Again, don't know where he was. I think he earned an opportunity. Double A out of Northwestern. Definitely. I think he's the biggest winner of the day, if we're being honest with one another. Just from wherever he was to wherever he is now, I think he's one of those guys that might have come in and been a 6th-round pick for a lot of people, and he might have messed around and got himself into the 4th round on some people's draft boards after, what he did, or at least got himself another look-see from some people where they got, okay, I got to go back and watch some more on this guy to see if it matches up with what I saw today, because I was impressed. If nothing else, he's earned some, 30-day visits, or one of those 30 visits from some of these teams now. They're probably a little bit more intrigued with him after seeing this. And then Brian Brzee, look, highly rated, coming out of high school, started out like gangbusters, had a lot of obstacles and hurdles to overcome, torn ACL, a couple of illnesses, sister passing away, dealt with everything. He's starting to look more like the Brian Brzee that came into Clemson as a highly regarded high school recruit than the guy we saw finish up at Clemson. So I thought he was another guy that really helped himself today as well. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. And see what you guys thought. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Red Wings 01 writes, an official 4.23 for Kalon Barnes, 2nd fastest in combine history. What is it with these with Baylor and these speed demons? Tyquan Thornton ran a 4.28 last year. I don't know what it is about Baylor. It's just one of those schools that produces dudes that can just flat out run. Now, a lot of these dudes, they don't actually translate to the next level very well. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Xavier Howard come from Baylor? I'm going to look that up. I feel like he was a Baylor Bear. He's one of the few dudes that actually lived up to the hype of being super fast and actually have that speed be matched with his talent. I could be wrong. Let me see where he went. Xavier Howard. Yep, Baylor Bear. So I don't really put too much stock in the speed, demons from Baylor, but that's impressive. That's impressive. They just got a knack for producing guys that can run really, really fast. It's Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, if you read a super chat about Kalon Barnes, which I just did, says forget it. I deleted it. Anyway, Jack Campbell ended up testing even better than I thought he would. Ideal middle linebacker. Talked about him already. So did he not run that 4.23 that you were referring to? I would like to think that if anybody ran that fast at the combine, they would have talked about him ad nauseum, but that's nor here nor there. Campbell really did test better than many people thought. Now, Daniel Jeremiah actually thought he was going to test even better than he did from a speed standpoint. There was no doubt about what they thought he could do, on the field, drill-wise. The question was going to be, could he test well from a straight line speed perspective? Jeremiah seemed to think he would and was actually disappointed when he ran that initial, 4.74, I think it was. That was unofficial. It was a 4.71 unofficial. But that turned into a 4.65. So to your point, that's a much better time for a guy his size at 6'5", 250. 4.65 is a great time. And when you couple that with what he was able to do on the field, it's pretty impressive. Like I said, I got to watch him. I haven't watched him, so I can't really comment on what he is or isn't. I can just tell you at that size, moving the way that he did in the positional drills, and then listening to Daniel Jeremiah kind of rant and rave about, him on tape and how he's flying around, I'm probably, when I watch him, probably going to say, okay, that matches up with what I saw, or I thought he would run faster, or I thought he would be slower, or whatever the case may be. We'll see what happens. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up Red Wings 01. Starface, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Starface writes, thoughts on AJ's overreaction to Juju's meme. Look, man, you can't. I wasn't mad at AJ Brown because, bro, we just lost the Super Bowl. You don't have to be like, I thought somebody said it perfectly. Like, that's kind of a dick move, if we keep it in a buck. Because, look, yeah, you won the Super Bowl, and it was a little cute Valentine's Day joke, but it wasn't funny because, like, we lost the Super Bowl, you won. Have some sportsmanship, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not like you just ate us alive for 127 yards and a touch, right? You barely made an impact in the game until the second half. Clearly, the holding penalty, what they called on that third down, was huge, and that's what he was making light of with James Bradbury. I think the Valentine's Day card he created said something like, holds you the most when it matters, or something like that, which, again, it was unnecessary is what it was. I'll just call it that. It was unnecessary. Yeah, you won the Super Bowl, bro. Just take your chip and keep it pushing. So AJ wasn't in the mood for the bullshit. I wasn't mad at him. I wasn't glad at him, but I wasn't mad at him because it was unnecessary. I wouldn't call it an overreaction. It's like, JuJu, what are you doing, dude? Like, AJ wasn't the only one to come after him. Like, bro, people that wasn't even on the Eagles roster was like, yo, what are you doing? Go sit your dumb ass down. But that's JuJu's move. He's one of these young boys in the TikTok in the league, and that's what AJ called him, TikTok boy or whatever. Then people started taking like low blow shots at him. I want to say it was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson jumped in, and he always go for the jugular. He goes straight for your jugular, man, every time. But he was like, boy, you was one, they saved you. You one wrong move away from being out of the league or some shit like that. I was like, damn, that was unnecessary too. But it is what it is. Patrick Mahomes came in and was like, hey, look, man, he just bored at home. He ain't got nothing to do. Like, just leave him alone. But yeah, I'll take it easy on him. But It was unnecessary. So AJ's response, I thought, was within reason. Because it, like, I'm here minding my business and I get a shot, right? I'm walking to my car and I catch a stray and I'm like, wait, what are we doing? Y'all already got us. Why you over here coming and get me when I'm just minding my business over here? And it was still fresh. So no, I didn't think it was an overreaction. Marcus Dixon, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Marcus Dixon writes, how do you feel about the team report card that the NFL is doing? I find it really interesting. No surprise that the Commanders ranked last. At least we were making players pay for dinner like the Cards, LOL. I mean, are you surprised? Like you said, I'm not surprised. Are you surprised? You shouldn't be. I don't think anybody's surprised by any of the findings of that. I don't put too much stock into it. It's just another thing on the long list of things that we've seen that make us go, that's why we are what we are, right? But in that same report, the Kansas City Chiefs were like 27th or 29th or whatever. Like, it is what it is. You know, we got old facilities. None of that shit is a surprise. We got old facilities. We got obviously our owner is broke. He don't have no money. And he's a penny pincher anyway. He's been busting us over the head for parking and concession and all kinds of shit for years. So this shouldn't have come as a surprise to anybody. I didn't know that they were sharing rooms in the hotels when they go on the road. I didn't know that. I didn't know that because, you know, when you look at social media, it looks like they're climbing aboard a PJ when they're, you know, getting on the plane. They got on a little dope-ass outfit or whatever, their little fit that they're going to wear post-game, looking clean, right? So they take all these clean-ass pictures and shit just to go sit and coach. I didn't know, but again, I honestly, I don't care about any of that stuff. It doesn't affect me. It affects the players, clearly. But who couldn't have guessed that those things were the way they were? Kansas City proves that you don't have to have the state of the art this or the best that to win. Winning is a state of mind, and we're just not there yet. Because you can win with less than stellar accommodations. Chiefs are proving that year in, year out. If this report card is true to form, Chiefs aren't that far, you know, in front of us. But they're winning every year. So what does that say? Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Video channel writes, Lou, how far down do you think Jalen Carter will fall? Not very far at all. Here's the thing. Was it irresponsible on his part to participate in something like that? Like, most of you are out there, you know, drive. Not everybody's of age. Because I know a couple of y'all are young boys out there. So you might not be behind the wheel quite yet. But most of us drive. And if you're like me and you do a lot of driving at night, you've seen a couple of clowns zigging and zagging in and out of traffic, racing each other. You've seen that shit. And every time I see it, I go, dumbass. Right? It is what it is. People gonna race. People gonna do stupid shit. It's immature, but you got to understand that we're talking about immature, young, and it's not an excuse because not everybody's young, dumb, and immature, right? Everybody matures at a different rate. I've talked about this. Everybody matures at a different age. Some people got to grow up earlier than others because of their situation and circumstance. Other people, they just don't get it until they get of age way down the line, you know? And so you're dealing with guys that are still young-minded. And I thought somebody said something profound today. I mean, and it's not something that we haven't heard a million times, but it was something to the effect of all of us who went to college, think about what you were doing at that age, and we all made mistakes. Some bigger than others, some less, some more impactful, but we all made mistakes. Okay? But understand that one mistake can alter the path of your life, could totally change everything. And this is what I try to impart upon the youth of America, is that ain't no do-overs in life. You make one wrong decision and it could change everything. You get in a car with somebody that you know probably shouldn't be in a car with them. They always up to no good, but you decide, hey, I need a ride real quick. I ain't trying to walk no more. You get in the car. They end up robbing somebody. In the commission of that robbery, somebody gets killed. So now there's a murder charge, and everybody in that vehicle is catching a murder case. So it just takes one mistake. He made a mistake. Now, while it was a bad mistake, he didn't cost his friend and teammate and that staffer their life because he wasn't driving their car. Unless he ran them off the road, and we don't know all of the particulars of the situation, but he wasn't driving their car. But he was engaging in an act that helped lead to that person's death. And so, in saying that, there is something that teams are going to have to vet. Did you, in a moment, because I've seen some articles out there of people trying to defend him, talking about all the good shit that he does. He may not be a bad kid. He might have just made a stupid ass mistake. Thought something that he thought was harmless fun, probably was a little drunk at 2 a.m, turned into a life-altering mistake for someone who's no longer here. So they got to vet him, figure out if he's prone to making these types of decisions, because there could be a long list of these types of decisions in his background or in their, findings when they do a check on him, that, hey, they talked to this dude and they talked to this guy back in his past, in his hometown, and they talked to this guy, and they talked to this coach, and they talked to this trainer, and there's a history of him making poor decisions. Then you say, okay, this ain't a guy we can trust. But if you talk to everybody and you keep hearing the same thing over and over, hey, this is a good kid. This is a really good kid. Sometimes you got to, redirect them and get them in the right direction, but this is a good kid. Ultimately, we know this in the NFL, more so than any other sport. Talent trumps character. We know this to be a fact. All right. They'll give you every opportunity to prove that you can change your ways if you're talented enough. Trust me, Reuben Foster would still be in the league if he was talented enough. No one is going to put up with your bullshit if you are not worth it. So, this kid is still going top 5, is what I'm telling you. All it takes is one team. Somebody's going to say, I'm taking the moral hog road. I would take him, but I ain't fooling with him. Somebody else is going to be like, cool, I appreciate you. I respect what you're doing. But this dude too talented to pass up. They're going to put his name on that card. And I don't know if that's the Bears trading back. I don't know if that's, Seattle or this team or that team. Somebody's taking his ass in the top 5. I don't think he falls very far. So we'll see what happens. And the good thing is this wasn't like when the video of Laramie Tunsil came out literally, hours before the draft, and teams didn't have an opportunity to vet it, and they just had to pass on him, and he fell to 13 to the Dolphins. This ain't that. This happened during the Indy Combine. We still 2 months away from the draft. So teams have plenty of time to vet this entire situation, to really get to the bottom of this, learn who this kid is, and figure out if they want to spend a top 5, top 10 pick on him. They'll do their homework, their due diligence, and somebody will feel comfortable enough pulling the trigger on him because he's super talented. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Oh, my guy, Luck. Thoughts on these? They stink. That's my thoughts on those. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Luck. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? After all the sad Mondays, lazy Tuesdays, 2-hour drives, no sleep, and disappointment, I said I wouldn't pay for season tickets again. I've been doing great, keeping my word. Damn it, EB made me fold, Lou. I still ain't gave them my money for my season tickets yet. I ultimately will. I'm going to make them sweat a little bit, though, because they ain't shit. And they know they ain't shit. So I'm going to make them sweat a little bit before I get them my money. They keep trying to threaten me where your seats are going to be. I don't give a shit. You ain't selling out. Don't try to threaten me like my seat's going to be gone. There'll be some other seats available. Trust me. I don't have to worry about that. It ain't no waiting list for these tickets no more. I'll find 2 seats next to each other somewhere in the damn stadium. Thank you very much. Kick rocks. EB said, got your ass, Mr. Luck, man. Got your ass. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wings writes, I was tripping hard, Lou. I thought you were, because I'm like, if anybody came remotely close to the record at the Combine, you know how long and how many times they would have talked about that? There's no way Rich Eisen would have left that set without talking about that at least 15 times. Because they talked about the 4.39, and rightfully so, because he's the heaviest player in Combine history to run that fast. So I get it. But imagine somebody running a 4.23. Yeah, right. They would have talked about that shit for an hour. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wings 01 writes, no, he ran that fast. But that was last year. I don't even remember him running that fast last year. He says, I didn't get to watch the Combine today. Thought the DBs were running. So I looked up DB 40s and the results for last year showed up and I realized I didn't know he ran that fast. Because what's the record is John Ross is 4.22, right? Am I mistaken there? It's 4.22, right? I think. Anyway, I thought K'Lon Meekins. So now that his name does ring a bell. I thought he ran something closer to 4.3. I mean, you said he ran 4.23. You're probably right. He ran 4.23. But yeah, no, the DBs don't go until tomorrow. So you're 1 day off. And it's crazy because Combine information be real convoluted. Like if you just do a little quick Google search, they'll throw you all kinds of shit. And if you're not cognizant, you'll get got. You'll get got. For sure. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, chances of Bears trading back with Carter, Sitch. They were trading back anyway. Like, don't ever allow anybody to fool you into thinking, could the Bears draft a quarterback at 1 and trade Justin Fields? Nope. Not after what Fields showed them this year. He brought excitement back to Chicago. He gave them hope. Now they realize we got to surround him with playmakers. So they're going to do that. In the meantime, they got a pick that could speed up the process of them getting better. They're going to utilize that. And because this draft actually has some quarterbacks worthy of trading up to number 1 to get, they're going to get out of one. And the beauty of it is they're going to rape someone, sodomize someone, and they're not going to have to move back very far to do it. This isn't a situation where they go from being number 1 to number 14. They're going to go from 1 to 4, 1 to 6, 1 to 3, and they're going to get king's ransom to do it. And they were going to do that all along, whether Jalen Carter was having these issues off the field or not. If you love him at 4, then you could take him at 1. Like, there's no, oh man, now that he's in trouble, I got to trade back to 4 to take him. No, this was the plan all along. So I don't think that has any bearing nor impact on what they're going to do, because the only way it could have an impact is if, let's say, the Raiders, who I think have the 7th pick or something like that, or Carolina, who has the 9th pick, decide they want to go up to number 1, right? With this recent, discovery with Jet, maybe he drops to 7 or 9, whereas before there was no way he was getting past 5. That's the only difference that it could, but the likelihood is he's still going to go in the top 5. So I don't think it has any impact at all. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Luck writes, they also gave me like a $1,300 discount. I need one of them. They give me one of those and I'm back in the game immediately. What do I sign? They ain't give me no discounts. They try to come at me sideways like I owed them money or something. Like, who you think you're talking to right now? So whatever you did, you need to tell me what you did to get a $1,300 discount. I need one of them. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Joe Rockhead writes, I hate to be superstitious, but it concerns me that every starter ahead of Heineke gets injured. I mean, it's a thing, right? So I can't, until it doesn't happen, that's a real thing. I mean, I'm not putting that out there, but that's a thing. Until it doesn't happen, it's a thing. So are you insinuating that you would prefer that Heineke played ball elsewhere next year, for fearing that if he stays, something would happen to Sam Howell? Is that what you're insinuating? I need to know these things, Joe Rockhead. Is that what you're trying to insinuate here? Malachi Malik, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Malachi Malik writes, just showing some love. Feel better, my brother. I'm trying over here, man. So I told you these kids, man, I ain't never had nothing like this, man. These twins hit different. Because you swat one off and then the other said, bow, got your ass. You duck one and you think you're doing something and then bow, Now we over here fighting pink eye. If it ain't one thing, it's another. You're like, bro, what, man? Got me scared to put my hands in my eyes and washing my hands 15 million times. Like, come on, man. Give me a break. They beating Dad up, man. Dad is. I'm fighting a good fight over here, man, but they kicking Dad ass. Real talk. Like, I'm on some rope-a-dope shit. I'm fighting over here, but I'm on the ropes just trying to conserve energy. Like, when y'all gonna give me a chance to throw some blows over here? Because right now I'm just taking a whole lot of shots, rolling with the punches, trying to get my Floyd Mayweather on, man. You know, trying to just roll with these joints. But man, I'm taking a beating over here, man. So you might see me with some glasses on tomorrow. If you do, you know I got. Anyway, I digress. So day one in the books. We'll be back all weekend long, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, breaking out each day of the combine. And I thought that was a good start for a draft that's not supposed to be all that impressive and talented. I thought this was a really good day, but again, this wasn't one of the positions that stunk in the draft. You know, linebacker is never all that great, but this is not a bad linebacker draft class per se. Edge rusher is one of the stronger positions in this draft, and we didn't even see Myles Murphy or Trey or Wilson. So this is a deep draft class at edge rusher. Don't think defensive tackle is all that great, but the best player overall in the draft is a defensive tackle. So there's that. Anyway, tomorrow's going to be an impressive day because you're talking about defensive backs, and this draft is loaded. Might be the single deepest position in the draft is defensive back, specifically corner. So tomorrow should be fun. Then we'll get to the main event on Saturday, which is quarterbacks, receivers, and tight end is a very deep group this year as well. So I think we are in for a really solid weekend, if I may say so myself. But anyway, I digress. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Yes, Lou. I like TH, but I might prefer Mariota. Hope you feel better soon. Take Airborne and plenty of water. I had to see what ingredients are in Airborne. I don't just put anything in my body. I think that's what has been. Normally, I don't get sick, but when I do, it takes me a lot longer because I'm not really taking a whole lot of stuff that's not natural. So I think that's been part of what's been taking me a lot longer to get healthy. Is I don't just put anything in my body. So anyway, I digress. If you're a Washington fan, we about to jump into a stream. Give me about 10 minutes to switch everything over, and we're gonna dive into some Washington conversation. So I appreciate y'all joining me for day one. Come back and join me again tomorrow night for day two of the combine coverage. And I'll be here all weekend. Again, remember, I watch this shit, so you don't have to. But most of you are diehards like myself, so you're watching it anyway. But for those of you who aren't, bless your soul. I wish I had. I envy you. I'll just say that. In any event, I appreciate y'all holding the kid down, and I look forward to chopping it up with you guys again tomorrow. For those of you who are Washington fans, if you got time, look, it's late. I get it. Y'all got to work tomorrow. Catch it on playback. But for those of you who can kick it for a little while, come over to the other stream. See you guys in roughly 10 minutes or so, and we'll talk Washington Commanders ball. Until then, you guys, take care. God bless. As always, good night.